Stephen Walker for WI Proud. Happy to be bringing you our April Artist of the Month, a longtime friend of mine, Colin Thelen. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Did I get it wrong anyway?
No, you got it.
Okay.
It's perfect.
As soon as I started saying, we were off camera, we were talking about how to say his name, and then I said it, and then I was like, nope, that's not it.
It's okay. It's strange, right? Because generally I try not to have people know my name.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You might know Colin as a billion other names, I guess. So let's first start way back. You're from around here, correct?
I am, yeah. I am from La Crosse originally. I'm born and raised local, like San Franciscan Scamp Hospital back in the day before all the remodels and construction over there on West Ave. And I grew up kind of doing theater stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was more involved in a lot of stuff when I was growing up, and so I met people who were involved in like old theater groups in La Crosse from the 80s and 90s, like the Pegasus Players and things like that.
What is that?
These are old like theater companies that sprung up and like would do shows like above the old Pearl.
Okay.
Like in that kind of space that's above the Pearl ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the Vagina Monologues there when I was like young. I
was
sitting on the steps eating my ice cream, not in the theater, so I kind of grew up around it, but never really dove into it until later.
So what was the bug? What bit you?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, like goofing around, we would like make up skits and crap like that with my friends and things, but it wasn't until college I had a class. I was a University of Minnesota student and then a transfer back to UWL here. And my first semester back, I had this class called Acting for Non-Majors. And it was to fulfill a requirement. And this wonderful soul, Mary Leonard, who just retired from UWL, was the teacher of that class. And she sent someone afterwards, after class one day, running after me about some auditions that were coming up for a show called Robert Rauschenberg America. And it was like a workshop class, and they needed guys, which was a classic theater problem.
Right, yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool, I'll go audition for it. I auditioned for it, and I got cast in it, and, long story short, I wound up declaring a major. I went from being like an international business major to getting sucked into a theater performance degree, so totally different.
That's so funny because little inside baseball. I got to audit Mary's last improv class.
Yeah.
And one of the kids in that class was an acting for non-majors kid, who like the year before he took acting for non-majors, and then this year he was taking improv, and he was the one that was like, "Ooh, let's do this, and do we have costumes and this?" And then I'm like, "Are you sure you should be majoring in business, buddy?"
Yeah,
so she was doing that up until she retired.
Yeah, for sure.
So business major to then you worked professionally. How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, it was like. I think the business major stuff some of it was tied more to like I just wanted to be out doing different things.
Sure.
And like some of that is like in just an access point to like being able to do that. And it's weird because then I ended up finding it through theater, right? Because it's this weird thing where like if you're trying to work like that, you get to travel, you get to go to different places. And so I went to like these auditions when I was still in college. These Unified Professional Theater auditions, UPTAs is like the little acronym for them. But it's all kind of different regional theaters from all over the country come together to whatever city. The one that I went to was in Memphis, and I wound up getting a job from that out in North Carolina, working with the Lost Colony, which is a theater that does kind of a historical reenactment of the first English colony on Roanoke Island. If you know kind of the ghost story, the lost colony of that. They're kind of disappeared. This was during the Spanish-English Armada blockade, couldn't get ships back. Sir Raleigh's petitioning Queen Elizabeth. Finally, they get a ship. Nobody's there. They're disappeared. So it becomes this sort of first American ghost story. So I got a job working out there as like an actor tech. Did that for a summer, very Dirty Dancing style. Everybody lives together in cabins in the woods, like right on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So it's gorgeous, super fun. And then I moved up to New York City after that for like 4.5, 5 years. And really like worked to live there more than like, really pursued theater in the way that, I was probably prior to that. Did a few things out there. It was a blast. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And then kind of came back here, spent a good time away from theater, actually, probably like a 4 or 5 year break. And then a mutual friend of ours, Megan, was working one day, and I had come in to see her where she was working at the time, and she told me about auditions at the community theater for Streetcar, and there was a play before that, and I was like, I hadn't done anything in 4 or 5 years, and I was like, all right, all right, let's get back. Okay, it's like I tend to be that thing where if somebody wants me to do something, I'm like, oh, I'll perk up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
So okay, so I was like, all right, sweet, and.
Like most actors, you want to be invited to the party, not thrown.
I got sucked back into it, and so I ended up, and I met a bunch of great people working on that first show called Wait Until Dark at the community theater, and then wound up getting to participate and get cast in Streetcar, and then that turned into like this Shakespeare thing because of the director of Streetcar works with the Fairbanks Shakespeare Theater Company up in Fairbanks, Alaska, and so now I've been going up there for 3 or 4 years now doing Shakespeare in the summer up in Alaska.
Is this summer also going to be one?
Yeah, I'm playing Edgar and King Lear.
Oh, wow.
Up there.
Okay.
So that's like, I got to be up there middle of June, off book, ready to
go.
ready to go, man. Yeah, right after this one. It's like, the one that we're doing now in April.
So if we're going to keep along the career path, how does Gray Area take over?
But it was sort of born out of this desire to like come out of the pandemic and do some stuff. There was some changeover at the Pump House Regional Arts Center, which some people, Anne Drektra, her kind of retirement and stepping away from kind of producing some things there, and so Vacuum kind of needing to be filled, and it was just a group of us that kind of got together and decided, like when we come out of this, like we had some scripts that were really great, and it really comes from that, right? It's like good stories.
Sure.
That's where it comes from, is like reading scripts that like make you feel something. So when you're reading it.
Just so that we give them their flowers, it's Luke Erickson, you, Colin Thelen, Adam Petchel, Dominique Lukey. Who am I missing?
Yeah, so like in the onset, it was Dominique Lukey, Luke Erickson, Caleb Smith,
Caleb Smith,
and myself.
Okay.
And then it sprung into, then we added Katie Bacalars, Chelsea McManaman-Moe, Adam Petchel, and so a lot of these people this is like the La Crosse Community Theater, UWL theater grads, Viterbo theater grads, so all people who have kind of swum in similar circles, but not entirely overlap. So it was really nice to bring a lot of those people together, and then we produced this show called The Few, Samuel D. Hunter, coming right out of the pandemic, which was a really amazing thing. He's the author who wrote The Whale with Brendan Fraser. So we got a chance to actually do some like Zoom meetings with him in our production process. So just things like that were really, really cool.
So let's talk now about the show you got coming up. Tell us a little bit about this one and how you came to it.
Yeah, so this show is called Brilliant Traces. It's by a woman named Cindy Lou Johnson. It was written in the late 80s, 1989, I believe is when it's copywritten actually. We were, kind of searching for a show. We were in a place before we decided on this where it was kind of a lot of balls up in the air. We weren't sure exactly what we were going to do, and we were kind of facing a little bit of a deadline, as you do, as how that's kind of how it goes sometimes. And Luke Erickson has always been kind of our play truffle hunter. He's the guy with the nose to the ground, and he's able to he just has a knack for finding good scripts, and so. It's interesting because this show actually was one that was brought by a couple different members of the group. Chelsea McManaman-Moe, who she and Luke are co-directing this show, and then Adam Petchel as well. They all had connections to this show, some of them stemming back from college, because it's a popular show that universities like to use, snippets of, scenes of, for scene work for other students, just because of how the show's written. It gives a lot of really great opportunity for scene work. Because it switches back and forth with some really intense dialogue and pretty intense monologues, things like that. And so there's a lot of opportunity for different work in there. No, I mean, so the show is really, it's a man and a woman, and they're trapped in this cabin in Alaska, right? And it's the middle of this snowstorm, and no one's going anywhere. So it's like this pressure cooker, and they're both running from things in their lives, and in very different ways, with very different tactics. And they're both dealing with trauma. Ultimately, that's what it is. They're trying to deny or obfuscate dealing with whatever this thing is that's in front of them. And they both, because of this situation, like end up being the perfect person for each other, and their ability to kind of force the issue on this other person, and for them to have to really deal with it, and they don't have the ability anymore to escape it based on the circumstances.
Sure.
And so it's interesting because like they for sure are fleshed out people, but it's a little absurd in that, like, you know, it delves into absurdism in this way where like the circumstances are pretty absurd.
Right.
And some of their reactions are pretty absurd. And they sometimes represent things that are a little bit bigger than just themselves, like kind of these concepts of connection and how different people deal with trauma in different ways, right? So, yeah, it's intense. It's intense for sure. I mean, there's a bunch of comedy in there too. I mean,
sure.
it is light. It's like a lot of stuff we do where it's a pretty hefty smattering of both
I was
sides
going
of the
to say,
spectrum.
if you haven't seen a Gray Area show, you should know that it's going to be intense in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Every single thing you've done has been intense in some way. Mm-hmm. So this should be no different.
Yeah, because we're trying to create theater that, you know, goes beyond just pure entertainment, which is awesome, right? Like that type of theater is amazing, and it deserves a place in the pantheon of theater, right? The stuff we're trying to make is a little bit more introspective, right? It's like trying to find an audience and cater to an audience and create an audience that wants to come out and have a night where they're maybe tackling something, or they're thinking deeper about a particular issue or a concept or a thought or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this one, man, it deals with a lot of different stuff. There's loss. I mean, it deals with aging, parental relationships, you know, parent-child relationships, loss in that aspect. And so it delves deep into some stuff that's pretty hard for people to deal with. We are, you know, a talk-back company, and so we do like to provide an opportunity for the audience to, like, where we have this exchange of ideas and kind of co-process what we've just seen after the show, right? So actually, each show that we're doing is going to have a talk-back.
Every single one?
Yeah, there'll be
nice.
a talk-back offered after each show this run. So,
what do you think the themes are of this one? Because every single show you've done has a theme.
Yeah. Man, it really comes from the author herself, and I think she, you know, in an interview that she gave when this play was kind of first getting produced in its kind of heyday back then, Joan Cusack, I believe, was the original female actress in this show, but she talked about it being this thing that all humans need, right? Like, we all need connection at some point. We all have this drive to connect in some way, shape, or form. Even the most isolated among us, still, like, there's something that drives even fleeting connection, so that we're not totally alone and isolated, right? And man, it just gets at that. It gets at, like, these people desperately needing to connect and not being able to, but really, really still needing each other, and kind of, you know, this ships passing in the night that fling lifelines out to each other.
Sure.
And are there for what they need in that moment. And then who knows? Maybe, we don't know. And I'll be, you know, not to do too many spoilers, but it ends in this climax. You know, there is, like, this thing where we, you know, kind of the end of Inception, you know, when the top is spinning, it kind of flickers a little bit. Yeah. But you don't quite know. It's kind of, in that vein, you know.
How do you guys keep, you're like just ahead of the curve. Mitzi's came out right before a bunch of the reproductive rights stuff came out. This will be coming out right close to an election where people seem more disparate than ever and need connection more than ever.
For sure.
Like, you guys seem to be absent-mindedly
for sure
ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it seems like that. Yeah. I'm glad that it seems absent-minded. There's a little bit of thought behind it. I mean, I don't want to, like, just on a personal level, like, I'm a bit of a news junkie. Like, I find myself always telling Alexa to play NPR News.
Sure.
And so, like, I'm, like, always trying to keep my ear to the tracks, right? To kind of, like, feel the pulse of like what's going on, man. Like how are people feeling? Like what's going on in society? Being a part of that moving, breathing thing that our society is, and how it changes and whatever, and paying attention to that type of stuff, I think is super important, because it's like the things that are happening right in front of us that we're all experiencing are going to be a lot easier to relate to, and it's going to be more relevant, and so if you can find stories that are even adjacent, and to be able to shed some light on that, and it's about like different perspectives and how do we process this, and like and theater is such a beautiful like art of compromise, right? And it's like almost what people are like, like the vast majority of people I think in this country are like wanting compromise, like we see in our own interpersonal relationships and our marriages and all of these things, right? It's about compromise, and if we don't have that, everything kind of falls apart, right? And so like, finding a way to bring people back together and
I think that kind of speaks to what you guys do, because when you say without the costumes or this, that, and I know you're talking about the script, but you guys do a very intimate, stripped down form to where it looks like someone's living room. It doesn't look like it's 1950s Technicolor theater.
We're breathing the same air as the audience, because we're sitting this close to the audience.
Right, exactly.
There are times where like, it's like I'm acting right here, and you've bought a ticket to the show, and that's how close we are. And so it does it puts it in that vein where people. I mean, I think in the last show we did this show by Lucas Nath called A Thin Place. I mean, the audience is involved. They're necessarily not aware that they're involved right away, but they get involved in some pretty heavy ways. So we're not scared of kind of doing that and poking, and some people come to theater and they're like, do not get me involved in this, but that might happen.
Well, just let me break your heart a little bit. Every audience member that's ever been to any show ever, you're a part of what's going on. Without you, what we're doing up there doesn't make any sense at all. And you absolutely feed into what's going on. There are jokes that are bigger, there are moments that are longer, there are things that happen that you might not even know or realize, but you're absolutely playing a part.
Always.
So, before we go nuts and bolts of the show, I'm sorry I forgot the name. Beautiful Traces.
Yeah, Brilliant Traces.
Brilliant Traces.
All right, that's okay. Brilliant Traces. Yeah, Brilliant Traces. Cindy Lou Johnson, directed by Chelsea McManaman-Moe and Luke Erickson, and we're going the last 2 weekends in April. Okay. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday through Saturday are going to be 7:30 p.m. That would be the 18th, 19th, 20th, and then 21st is a matinee 2 p.m. show on Sunday. Same the following weekend. I want to say that's the 25th, 6th, 7th, 8th, I believe.
We'll put links up to the Pump House website and all that stuff.
Everything's on the Pump House website. You can get tickets, all the price. We do offer like a military student discount. If you're a Pump House member, you can get a discounted ticket. And I think general admission is still only like a $20 ticket. So it's pretty affordable. We do offer a free preview night. That first Thursday, the 18th, is a free preview night. Things are expensive, man. Inflation, everybody's like strapped. And so we try to make sure that people have the ability to come and still access theater like this. And so you bring a family of four, and that gets to be pretty spendy at even $20, $80 for people to come out for a night for that. You can come and toss a $5 in the bucket and see a show, that night. So it's just donation. What would be the word? Encouraged, but not mandatory, So
all the information will be had at thepumphouse.org. Like I said, that'll go here and in the article down below. Otherwise, Colin Thelen, our April Artist of the Month.
Oh, thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it.